Coming up on Retiring Well with Michael Reese.
Folks, retirement is a fundamental change in your life. It's not surprising that your goals change at that point, which means your strategies and tools should change. And guess what? If they don't take their required distribution, 50% penalty, 50, big number. Don't let them mess that up. But they each get to stretch it over their lifetime under current rules. That's a cool thing.
Now, the host of Retiring Well, Michael Reese.
Welcome to the show today. We have 30 minutes of action-packed information specifically designed for you. Retiring Well starts right here, right now.
Retiring Well with Michael Reese, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well with Michael Reese, where we believe your best is yet to come.
This week in CFP Talk, I want to share with you what is probably the biggest mistake that people make with their retirement planning. And I have a little story about my grandparents to share that really highlights the mistake that is made. See, my grandfather and grandmother, they were both school teachers, and they had a dream. They wanted to retire and buy a cottage up in northern Michigan on a lake. And so my grandfather, he's a big believer in dividend-paying blue chip stocks. That was his deal. He loved dividend-paying blue chip stocks. So what he would do is he would save up money, and he would, as he accumulated savings, he would buy, a portfolio of these dividend-paying stocks. Now, what happened was, over time, he accumulated a decent amount, and when he retired in 1971, he had about $300,000 in that portfolio, which is worth like $1 million plus today, right? This is back in 1971. And so what they did, my grandparents, they were able to realize their dream. They bought the cottage on the lake. The only problem is my grandfather kept investing in those same, he never changed his investments. He kept them the same dividend-paying blue chip stocks. And what happened in the early 70s, right after he retired, markets started going down, so the value of those stocks went down, the dividends that they paid went down, and then inflation started going up, so he had to pull more and more money out of an account that was going down and down in value, and you can only guess where that went. He ended up running out of money. Now, what happened? What happened to my grandfather is the same thing that happens in the financial industry. Financial advisors, they fall in love with what I call the shiny object. For my grandfather, the shiny object was blue chip stocks. For the financial advisors, usually it's some tool, some place where you can put money, and they fall in love with it. So it might be, a real estate trust that they fall in love with. It might be a mutual fund portfolio. It might be an annuity. Whatever it is, they fall in love with some tool. And so what they do in the financial world is they say, all right, let's start with a tool. Now that tool could be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, annuities, real estate, limited partnership, options, commodities, futures, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs. There's tons of tools. And what do? They say, I'm going to fall in love with one of these tools. Let's imagine they fall in love with some mutual fund, a company that sells mutual funds. They've got some asset allocation that's kind of neat that this advisor thinks. And so I say, wow, I really like that. So how do I sell that tool to, people just like you? Well, they say, what we have to do, we've got to figure out some strategy to sell the tool. If it's a mutual fund portfolio, they might say, let's create an asset allocation strategy. So when people come in, we'll ask them a questionnaire, and we'll create a pie chart, a pretty looking pie chart that shows asset allocation, and we'll use that as our strategy to sell these different mutual funds. There are a lot of strategies you could have. You could have a growth strategy, an income strategy. You might have a preservation strategy, asset allocation we talked about, maybe a tax strategy, a long-term care strategy, a lot of strategies we could have. But the idea is start over here, figure out a strategy, and then once we get the strategy, we need to identify how is that going to fit one of your goals? For my grandparents, it was buying a cottage. But what about you? Maybe your goal is you want to travel. You want to focus on family after you retire. You want security, freedom. A lot of goals that you have for your retirement. So we start over here, we go this way. What mistake did my grandfather make? His shiny object was what? Dividend paying stocks. That is a growth strategy, which worked terrifically when he's trying to build up assets so he could retire and get his goal. But the minute he got the goal and he retired, everything changed. He didn't need growth anymore as much as he needed inflation-protected income. He needed a different strategy, which means different tools, but he never changed because he had that shiny object syndrome. What should you be doing? You should start over here with the goal. And then once you know what you want, you develop a strategy, a set of strategies to support that goal. And then from there, you don't start with the tools, you finish with the tools. Folks, retirement is a fundamental change in your life. It's not surprising that your goals change at that point, which means your strategies and tools should change. Now, if you have any questions about this or anything else we talk about in the show, please give us a call.
Remember when life was simpler? When things didn't move quite so fast, and the world didn't seem so complex? Remember that? We do. And as the world around us has continued to speed up, becoming more complicated, and still a bit uncertain, we have managed to keep things simple, providing sound, easy-to-understand financial advice and customized roadmaps for the road ahead, from tax reduction strategies, investment advice, and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, backed by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. We can be your single point of contact, a single call, a voice you recognize well, and a partner who can be by your side for the entire journey. We can't stop the world around us, but we can help ensure you're prepared for what's to come. To schedule a no-obligation meeting, simply contact us today.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right.
Welcome to another edition of True or False with Mike Reese. I'm Craig Sear, and Mike, are you ready for us this week?
I am ready and able and all that other good stuff.
All right, first question. Not all financial advisors are true fiduciaries.
So true or false, not all financial advisors are true fiduciaries. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, that one's true, right? Not all advisors. In fact, we could almost argue that almost no financial advisors are true fiduciaries these days. So what is a fiduciary, right? I'm sure at home, as you're watching this, I'm sure you've heard the word fiduciary, right? You've heard the word, but what does it really mean? You know, what is a fiduciary? What does that really mean? And what it really means, of course, is, especially in our world, a fiduciary is somebody who truly focuses on what's best for that person. So if we're talking to John and Mary, our goal as true fiduciaries is to focus on John and Mary and help them make smart choices with their money and give recommendations that are truly best for John and Mary, and with no conflict of interest on our side of the table. Now, the problem, of course, is in the financial world, you would hope that all financial advisors are like that. I mean, wouldn't you hope for that? Wouldn't you hope that when you talk to a financial advisor that they're truly focused on what's best for you? That's what we would hope. The problem is, however, very few truly are. Almost all financial advisors, they give you advice it's okay for you, but it's not really what's best for you. See, there are two standards of care in the financial industry. You have the fiduciary standard, which is that's the high standard, but then you have suitability, and that's it's okay. And conflicts of interest are fine, like revenue sharing, where companies, where somebody puts you in a mutual fund because, is it best for you? No, it's because that mutual fund company is paying a kickback to the firm. So this is an area that people, man, you think your advisor's looking out for you? A lot of times they're not. And listen, folks, this is why we tell you, call the office, come on in and visit with us, get a second opinion, see what it's like to actually visit with a true fiduciary. Odds are good you've never spoken to one before, and it's a real different experience.
Yeah, a lot of people think that just to be a financial advisor, you'd have to have someone's best interests at heart, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, next question. You should wait until age 70 to begin taking your Social Security benefits.
Wait until age 70 to take Social Security. Gosh darn it. Do you guys see what he's doing here? This is true or false, and you're throwing me a question that I have to say it depends on. I can't say that's true or false. This guy. So sometimes, yeah, you should wait till age 70. But sometimes you shouldn't. And
when should you wait until 70?
Yeah, so that's maybe that's a good question. So here's the thing. As you know, there are all these, the big rage in the financial industry these days are these Social Security income calculators, where what they do, I don't know if you've ever had one of these done for you, but if you have an analysis done by a Social Security calculator, I mean, pretty much the answer is always the same. Wait till age 70, right? I mean, that's typically what they say. But here's the problem. What if you retire and you're 65? You retired 65. Should you wait to age 70? Well, if you do, you have to spend, all your income comes out of your portfolio between then. That's 5 years where your portfolio has to generate, a big chunk of your income. That might drive your portfolio values down over time. You might have less money to pay for things like long-term care later on, or less money for your surviving spouse. The reality is, it really depends. If you retire before 70, it might make sense to take a little less Social Security up front to protect your portfolio values. If you live a long time, waiting till 70 it is a benefit, but you have to factor everything together. It's not just one simple answer. And you know what, Craig, he knows that, and he's just trying to trip me up. So that's what's really happening here. See, look, you can tell. Look at him. He knows he's trying to trip me up here.
Caught me. Guilty as charged. Well, thanks again, Mike. And if you've got any questions at home about any of these topics or any topic at all, just give us a call and we'll help you get it figured out.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me.
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right. This week in IRA Focus, we're going to talk about beneficiaries and how do they work with IRAs. Now, when I use the term IRA, I really mean IRA or 401k or 403b or 457 or any of those tax qualified retirement plans, because they all have the same rules when it comes to beneficiaries for the most part. There are some small differences between plan type, but for the most part, they're pretty much the same. But you need to understand how the rules work so that you don't get yourself into trouble by accident. So let's go ahead and let's look at 3 different rules that you need to know about. All right, rule number 1. Rule number 1 is this: IRA beneficiaries supersede it supersedes your will, your trust, everything else. In other words, it does not matter what your will says. It does not matter what your trust says. All that matters with an IRA or a 401k or a 403b, any of those types of plans, all that matters is you die, the money goes to the named beneficiary on those plans. So I'll give you an example. Let's assume, for the sake of discussion, that way back when, and there are cases of this, way back when you started some IRA a long time ago, you weren't even married yet, right? You weren't even married yet. And you named your parents maybe as the beneficiary of that IRA. Well then, what happens? Some years go by, you meet a young person, you get married, and the next thing you know, you get a will, you get a trust, you say, okay, in my will, in my trust, all of my assets go to my surviving spouse, right? Let's say that's what you do. But you never go back on that old IRA and you never change the beneficiary on that old IRA. Your wills and trusts say your spouse gets the money, but that old IRA still has a beneficiary. It says mom and dad. You get hit by a car and you die. Who gets the money? Mom and dad. Whoever's listed as beneficiary in that IRA, that's who gets the money. Does not matter what your wills and trusts say. So the only way that your wills and your trusts determine where your IRA money goes or where your 401k money goes, etc., is if you name that your trust is the beneficiary, or if you name your estate as the beneficiary, which most of the time you don't want to do either of those things. Okay, so that was rule number 1. What's rule number 2? Rule number 2, spouses have special options. That's right, spouses get special options. They get to do things that nobody else gets to do. Example, you have an IRA. You die, you leave it to your surviving spouse. That surviving spouse gets to do something that nobody else gets to do. That spouse gets to erase your name off the IRA and write their name in. So it becomes their IRA. Nobody else gets to do that. Only your spouse can do that. So that's kind of a cool thing. A lot of options for spouses. You want to make sure they're taking advantage of those. Now let's look at rule number 3. Things you need to know about IRAs and beneficiaries. Here you go. You've done the right job. Your beneficiaries are up to date and everything's done properly, and then you die. And it goes to your spouse, but maybe your spouse is already gone, or maybe you guys die at the same time. So now you're saying, no, I want it to go to my 3 kids, my 3 children, equally. Well, here's the thing. Make sure you list those 3 children separately on that beneficiary. Just don't check a box that says all children equally. List those 3 children, because then what happens is each of those 3 children, they get to have, now the IRA stays in your name, so it's listed John Smith, it's your IRA, but now it's a beneficiary IRA, they call it, for the benefit of that child. And each child, they have a required minimum distribution schedule of their own. And guess what? If they don't take their required distribution, 50% penalty, 50, big number. Don't let them mess that up. But they each get to stretch it over their lifetime under current rules. That's a cool thing. That is a really cool thing. Deferring those taxes over a long period of time can really be powerful, but it's all got to be set up properly. All right, there's your 3 rules with IRAs, right? 3 rules. Beneficiaries. Beneficiary arrangements supersede everything else. Spouses have special rules, and make sure you take care of your kids, set them up properly. If you have questions about this or anything else we talk about on the show, please give us a call.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. Smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.
One of the biggest mistakes we see people making all the time when they come to our office is they don't have a clearly defined retirement plan. And the reason's pretty simple. It's pretty rare that someone like yourself has the opportunity to sit down with an independent financial advisor who truly specializes in retirement planning. Someone that makes sure that you can get through retirement safely and securely. Well, if you don't have a clearly defined retirement plan and you want one, well, all you have to do is give us a call. We have a special offer for the first 5 people that call. As long as you have at least $250,000 saved for your retirement, we will provide for you, free of charge, no obligation, a complete retirement review. In this review, we're going to help you take a look at your investments and the risk you're taking, the fees you pay in your portfolio, maybe even some tax planning. Will help you have an integrated, clearly defined retirement plan. Free, no obligation, be one of the first 5 callers. Make sure you call now. We'll see you when you stop in.
Welcome to this week's Coffee Talk with Mike. My name's James Curry. We've got some great questions from viewers as they get ready for retirement.
I'm ready for him. Fire away.
So we have Carl from Austin asks, what exactly is this rule of 100 I keep hearing about, and why does it matter?
So that's a really good question, and we talk about this all the time. And it's one of those things that, you know, when we remind people about what it is, they're, oh yeah, I remember that now, right? But essentially, the rule of 100 is simply a rule of thumb that helps us to recognize that when we're younger, we can take more risk with our money, and when we're older, we should take less risk with our money. Kind of the stuff that we learn when we're taking our CFP classes in the early stages, right? So what it does is it says you take your age, and that is the percentage that you should have in safer types of accounts. And then you take the difference, 100 minus your age, that's a percentage that you have in risk-based accounts. So my daughter, Sarah, she's 22, she's getting ready to enter the workplace, and let's say she starts putting money in a 401k. Well, following the rule of 100, what should she do? She takes her age, 22, that's a percentage, it should be in safer accounts, and then the difference, 78%, well, that would be in risk-based accounts. Now, as you know, of course, it's just a rule of thumb. So she might be 80-20 is fine. She might be 100% if she's more aggressive in risk-based accounts. She might be 60-40 if she's more conservative. That's fine too. But here's the problem, and you know this is the problem, folks, as you're sitting at home. This is the problem that a lot of people face. We see this every day when people come into the office. You know, here you are, you're 60, 65, 70. Rule of 100 says, hey, you should probably have 60 to 70% in safe, right? James, how much do they have in safe normally?
Little.
Not a lot, right? 20% or 30.
Right.
They have like
Maybe.
70, 80% at risk all the time, sometimes even more. So what happens is people are coming to us, and folks, you're at home, this might be you, you're coming to us and you're saying, hey, where am I at? And you're taking on the risk of a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old. So don't do that. I mean, let's be smart about this, and let's help each other. Let's help you get in a better position for your risk exposure during your later years.
Right. I think the biggest thing is that as you get older, the way your investments are structured needs to shift.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of times people look at it and they go, well, what I've been doing is working. Why should I change?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And the reality is, remember this, folks, retirement is a fundamental shift in life. So all the strategies that you're using to get to retirement, those are not the same strategies you want to use after, because think about it this way. Before retirement, you're adding to the pile. After retirement, that's it. There's no more additions, and in fact, it's the opposite. You're starting to take money out. That's a big difference. You got to think differently.
Mm-hmm. Our next question is from Sadie in Round Rock, and she says, I'm being offered a pension buyout. How do I know if I should take the money or just keep my pension payment?
Ooh, that is a big one. Sadie, if you're watching, I want you to pick up the phone. I want you to call us. I want to talk to you, because here's the thing. A pension buyout, and if you're at home, you don't know what we're talking about. A pension buyout is where someone is getting a pension, or maybe they're getting ready to retire. They might have you might have an option. You might have an option to say, I'll take some annuity, some income for as long as I live. Or the other option might be the company might say, you know what, we just want to give you a lump sum and not pay you that income for life. So should you take the lump sum or not? A lot of benefits to taking the lump sum. I mean, there's more flexibility, more tax flexibility, more investment flexibility. Maybe there's money left over for a spouse or children. However, that income for life is a big deal. And you really have to, as you're at home, Sadie, come talk to us, because if you really need to look at, will that lump sum be enough to generate or replace the income that they were going to give you? Do you even need that much income? Maybe you don't even need that much income, but will it replace it? Will it? And what's your circumstances? What is your unique situation? Because guess what? This is an area, right, James? This is an area. There is no one answer fits all, right? One size does not fit all here. It is all about their specific circumstances.
Well, excellent. Well, those were some great questions this week. And if you have questions yourself, please call the office or visit our website, and we'll look forward to answering them.
Thanks, everyone, for watching the show today. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to call our office or visit our website. And remember, you only retire once. So let's get it right the first time. We'll see you next week.